You're here today because you decided to get meat rabbits and start the process of raising them for your family. Today we're going to talk about what it looks like when a doe is ready to be bred, what a successful breeding looks like, the body posture she presents when she's ready to be bred, and what to do if she doesn't want to breed. Maybe you're like I was at the beginning. I wasn't 100% sure what all of this was supposed to look like. I didn't know what normal behavior was. I didn't really know what to expect. I knew they were supposed to have the fall off to show me that it was a successful breeding. But what led up to that? When should I decide, okay, this isn't going to happen? What do I do if it doesn't happen? Female rabbits have a 5-day ovulation, and don't worry if you don't catch them at that time, because they can be forced into ovulation just by being around a male. So if you catch a doe during that time period, she's going to be very willing and ready to breed. Where the second one may take a little bit more work. So in these upcoming clips, I have actually one of each, I believe. This first clip is of a seasoned bucking doe. She will go into the cage. She won't be chased around very much by the buck. She'll lengthen her body, her back feet back. She'll lift her tail and allow him to breed her. It's a very quick process, and it's a very successful breeding. It's our preference when we breed our rabbits that we get 3 good fall-offs before we consider it a successful breeding. So these two had no time at all before they had 3 successful breedings. And if you watch here, what he does is a seasoned buck will thump his back feet to get her to move around, to be put in position for him to breed her. Okay, so that first buck and doe, that's pretty much a classic textbook example of a successful breeding. I want you to now watch this clip. This clip is of my 1-year-old buck and doe, and they're not as seasoned as the other two, but watch the difference. We're still going to look for the elongated body, the back legs back, and the tail up. Let's watch and see what happens. At one point, I tried to help this poor little buck and pushed her forward, and he made a valiant attempt. However, she wasn't cooperating. Even though her body was stretched out and her rear leg was behind her, she just wouldn't lift that tail. Houston, we have a problem. The doe does not want to breed with the buck. So now what do you do? Well, there's a few different things that have been tried over the years by different rabbit breeders, and I'm going to share with you what I know. Number 1, you can take the doe away, put her back in her cage for 6 to 8 hours, bring her back. She might be at that point where the stimulation of her ovulation has not occurred. So by just the process of putting her with him for a little while, taking him away and putting her back, you're helping that process to continue. I would do that 3 times, and more than likely by the 3rd time, you're going to get a successful breeding. Another thing you're going to want to do is try to swap out the buck and doe's cage. put the doe in the buck's cage and the buck in the doe's cage, and then after a day or so, bring the doe to the buck and see if that works. I didn't try either of these methods. This particular doe, after she had been so acquiescent the first time, she wasn't willing to go a second or third round with our buck. So I tried a couple different things. Number one, tabletop breeding. And tabletop breeding is basically just holding her down with her body outstretched and allowing the buck to breed her. Here's me trying to hold her down so that he can breed her. Notice that her tail is up. However, I lost my grip because I was trying to hold the camera and her at the same time. So he wasn't very successful. At some point, they do get tired and stop trying. And the last option I went with, and it actually probably helped the cause very much, was I left them alone for a few hours in the cage to have some alone time. Now, she wasn't growling, she wasn't trying to attack him, so I knew they would be fine alone for a while. If your doe is doing this with your buck, please do not leave them in the cage. She could potentially castrate him or hurt him or maim him somehow. But in this case, it all worked out. I went and did my chores, came back 3 hours later and put her in her own cage. Now, after all this is said and done, what is the reward for successful breeding? Baby bunnies. And here they are. This was not meant to be an extensive video, but if you were like me, I had questions about what did this really look like? What did this entail? What happens if? So if this has helped you in any way, shape, or form, please like and subscribe and follow along for more great content from Maplewood Homestead. We hope to see you soon.